Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I am doing my Aston Villa and Manchester United combined 11 ahead of the massive clash this Sunday. I'm so excited for this game and I've been really impressed by Aston Villa. Not so much Manchester United this season, but we're going to do a combined 11. Right then, let's go straight into it, and I'll also give you my prediction for the game on Sunday and a bit of a preview at the end of this video, so stay tuned. Smash the like button and subscribe. Right, in goal, it's Martinez or Onana, and for me this is a really easy decision. It's got to be Martinez. Martinez is an absolute joke of a keeper. He is colossal. He's probably one of the, if not the best keeper on the planet, in my opinion. He has been so consistent now, playing at such a high level and standard now for so many years. And we talk about Onana and we talk about that one Champions League season, whereas we could go for so many different seasons, so many different competitions for how well Martinez has been playing. And if Martinez wins the Yashin Award this year at the Ballon d'Or ceremony, he will be the first goalkeeper to win it back to back ever. And I think he's got to be easily straight in goal. Right then, we'll talk about the right back situation. We've got Ezri Konsa or Mazwari. Now, straight away, I'm going to go Ezri Konsa. I think Mazwari has started quite well since he's come in from Bayern Munich. But when I say he started quite well, I think compared to the rest of the team and compared to their other new signings, I think he started okay. But I think he's just an average right back. He's nothing extraordinary, nothing that kind of goes, wow, he's incredible. Like, he's a solid right back. I think he's a solid player. Whereas Konsa, for me now, for the last couple of seasons, has really improved, especially on the ball and going forward. And we've seen what he does quite often is he kind of makes it really narrow, but he can bomb on forward and he does get a few goals. And what I really like about the fact that Matty Cash was considered to be Aston Villa's best right back, and that Ezri Konsa is centre back and has slowly moved over and kind of taken that position, similar to Ben White, and he's kind of got a similar career trajectory as well with the fact that he's been playing for England as well. He played at the Euros. He's a really solid player. So yeah, Ezri Konsa at right back for me. Now, the centre backs is where I think it's quite interesting. Centre backs position, I think, is quite a difficult one. Now, I look at both centre backs for both sides, and I would say this is probably not the strongest point from both teams. So, straight away, I think the first player we've got to talk about is Pau Torres. Now, Pau Torres, for me, is an absolutely incredible defender. And I think he's probably the only centre back out of all the centre backs that both sides have got that is guaranteed. Like, it's an easy discussion. Straight away, he's in. So, it's got to be Pau Torres for me straight away. And I think you talk about his positioning on the ball, off the ball. I don't think he's probably great in the air. I think that's probably the only kind of downside to his game. But so many of their goals that have come this season come from him progressing with the ball with his feet or even passing it out. He's so good. And what I really like about him is the way he reads the play. You never see him really make any side tackles. He kind of just glides when he plays. Very similar to a playing style to Saliba. That's the kind of way I look at him. And Van Dijk, players like that who don't have to make a challenge. They don't have to be rash because they just read the game beautifully and kind of manipulate the ball, manipulate players to intercept. And I really like him. So Pau Torres straight away. Now, the other centre-back position, you've kind of got the choices between your Harry Maguires, your Johnny Evans, De Ligt. All three of them for me not good enough. Then the rest of the Villa ones, then you've got Carlos, and I just really don't think Carlos is good enough for me. Like, I've looked at him now for about a year, and I think he's probably the only position in that Villa team that really needs improving. Where I look at it and just think he's not good enough. Maybe Mings, when he eventually fully comes back and is fully fit, he can take his position, but I doubt it. But yeah, I just can't see it. I can't see it being Carlos for me. So then it's got to be Martinez. Now, Martinez, the butcher. Now, I know I've had a lot of stick on this channel because I've spoken about him before not being as good as everyone thinks. Don't get me wrong. I don't think he's one of the best centre-backs in the world, but I think he's an okay centre-back. He's a decent level centre-back, and probably compared to the rest of this position, the rest of the players in these positions, I think it's got to be him. So I'd have Martinez and Pau Torres, my two left-footed centre-halves. Yeah, both. Wow, that's not something you don't often see. But yeah, I just look at it and I just think, for both teams, it's probably the weakest position. So yeah, I'd probably go Martinez. I think Carlos, for me, it just seems a bit erratic and irrational at times. Like, you watch the game against Ipswich, the way he got turned by Liam Delap is just, you can't be a world class centre half and be playing like that. So yeah, I'd probably put Martinez. Then the left back situation, your kind of choices are Luca Digne, Diego Dalot, and then you've got Matson. Matson, for me, I think we'll get there eventually, but we've not seen it yet. He's kind of been blended into the team slowly. You see this quite often with Unai Emery, with a lot of positions where he kind of lets the players really grow and kind of gives them minutes, staggers their minutes over time. But yeah, so Matson couldn't be there starting now. It's too early. Then it's really between Digne and Delot. And Digne, I love going forward. Now, Digne is probably one of the best attacking fullbacks in the league. I think he's absolutely incredible going forward. But defensively, I think he's probably not there. Whereas I think Delot is complete left back. I really like him. The fact that he can play on both sides, I really like. So I'm going to go Delot in this position. Now, I know a lot of people will be going, what on earth? But yeah, let's look at Digne as a whole. Going back defensively, I don't think he's as strong as Delot, and I think Delot's he's still good going forward. And I like the way when he cuts inside and he comes and plays in because he has to, because he's right-footed left back. But yeah, I'm going to go Delot at left back. Okay, then now moving on to the midfield three. Now, this is where it gets quite interesting. So when I first did my notes and plan for this video, Bruno Fernandes was not in the squad and wouldn't be allowed to be in the squad. But obviously since then, his red card's been rescinded. I spoke about that on another video. If you go check it out, it's called, I think I titled it VAR is a joke, because it is ridiculous that he's in this, because how can it not be deemed clear and obvious but then rescind it? But it's not this discussion for now. So the midfield three, I think the one that's got to be straight away is Kobe Mainoo. Kobe Mainoo for me is probably one of the most technically gifted footballers in the league, and I just love how he just plays the game so casually. So Mainu straight away is in there for me. I love how like calm he is on the ball, and he takes the ball on the half turn. And what I really feel for him for now, for probably about a year, he's been playing on his in a double pivot, but on his own, because the other players who have been in there and trying to been helping him have just not been there like at all. They've not really ever really shown for the ball. So I think Mainu kind of been playing two roles, kind of been playing the job of two men. So I think he's been absolutely incredible. Now the next position, I'd probably say it's between Tielemans and Onana, and I'm going to go for Tielemans. So one of my best mates, Joe, is a Villa fan, and he always talks about this, that Onana kind of gets the plaudits because he's the new signing, he's an expensive signing, he's the youngster. He's scored a few goals, but Tielemans does everything he does and more. Tielemans is kind of that player who kind of goes under the radar. He seems to be very underrated and underappreciated, and especially watching him in that Ipswich game and in the Bayern Munich game, he's a really good player, so technically gifted, and I think he's so well rounded, and that's what I really like about him. He can do absolutely everything you'd want in a midfielder. Like, he's got attributes, literally everything you'd want. If you listed all things you want from a box-to-box midfielder, he does it, and he can play in the six. And I think the biggest thing, and what we spoke about with the Villa, is the fact that they sold Douglas Luiz, and it was kind of how would they cope without their main man. Well, Tielemans has just slotted into that position and progressed it like it's absolutely nothing. It doesn't seem to be spoken about enough. So yeah, Tielemans as the next midfielder. Then the two then that is kind of switched between is Morgan Rogers and Bruno Fernandes. Now we're talking about this current moment. So for me, I'd have to edge it towards Morgan Rogers. Yes, I know Bruno Fernandes is probably a better player all round, but right now in a combined 11, I know who I'd pick. Bruno Fernandes hasn't been great so far this season, and he may come back in this game to try and prove a point with the way that he performed in the last game. But Morgan Rogers is one of those players that really excites me. One of those players that I'd go out of my way to watch. And there aren't many footballers like that in the Premier League. I think of him and Cole Palmer are the two right now that I think are standout, kind of like old school players that don't really play like very normally. They take risks and things, which is what you want to see from a footballer, and that's what I love. And I think Rodgers right now is probably one of the best players in the league, and on form, and I'm absolutely obsessed. So I'd probably pick Rodgers over Bruno Fernandes right now, and that's not me saying he's better, because Fernandes has been really poor this season. Like, for his standards, he's really dropped. And I think that game against Tottenham and the fact he got a red card just kind of summed up his season so far. So yeah, I would go for Morgan Rogers. Then onto the front three. We'll start off with the striker. It's got to be Ollie Watkins. I don't really think it's a discussion. Zertsky is not really for me a number 9. I know they said that going into the season is kind of like a 9.5, and he plays as a second striker. But in this formation, we're doing a 4-3-3. So Watkins goes in. Watkins is incredible. Now a lot of people go, "Where's John Duran?" Well, John Duran is incredible, but he doesn't start. So if he can't even start in his own team, he can't start in my team. So yeah, I would say Watkins and then Duran, and then it would be Zertsky. But yeah, Duran has been absolutely incredible, and the guy's an absolute joke. But the problem is, if he keeps scoring off the bench, and when he does get his chances, he doesn't score, he's just going to be known always as that. So I want him to kind of step up to the next level. But Ollie Watkins now, so good at football, absolutely incredible. The pressing, the way he can link up. I just absolutely am obsessed with the bloke. The guy is an absolute joke, and that goal for England's one of the best moments of my life. So yeah, I'm always going to have Ollie Watkins in a bit of time for him. So yeah, Ollie Watkins as the number 9. Right, then we'll move over onto the right-hand side. So we've got Leon Bailey, who did get injured last night, but we don't know kind of how massive that is yet. So we can kind of discuss Leon Bailey, Garnacho, Ahmed Diallo, and then as well, you've also got a couple of others, but Philogene not really one we should really be discussing in this list. So it's kind of then, I think for me, it's going to be between Garnacho and Leon Bailey. Now, Leon Bailey, for me, hasn't kind of hit the heights that he did last season. I'm kind of interested to see, is it a purple patch? Because he took himself to another level last year that no one ever expected him to do. And he was absolutely incredible last season for Unai Emery. But you've seen with Unai Emery, he does this quite often, that he progresses as a player, but then he thinks, okay, now they've hit the ceiling. I want someone to go to the next level. So I think over time, we'll kind of see Bailey being replaced. But so for me, I'm going to go Garnacho, because I think Garnacho, he's probably one of the only bright sparks in this United side. And I think what he's been doing now for the last season and a half for Manchester United in a struggling team, I think is absolutely insane. I think he's really decent. Like, I really like the way he kind of plays still like a young player, which is what I like. I know he is still young, but you see quite often when a player's been playing so long now in the Premier League, which he has done, he's got quite a few appearances now in the bank. You see kind of the the kind of the irrational kind of play that the way he goes at players, he's like, it's so irrational and erratic. It's so exciting to watch, and it's quite refreshing to watch because he takes so many risks, takes on players, and you can still see he plays like a kid, like he's fearless. And I think that's the biggest thing. Fearless is probably the word that's probably perfect for Garnacho, and that's what I love. Like, you think about that overhead kick against Everton last season. No other player would have tried that other than Garnacho in that Manchester United team, and that's why I absolutely love him. I think he's so good, and I think he's really let down by the rest of his Man United teammates. I think he's also treated quite harshly, I think, quite unfairly by Ten Hag. He quite often gets slammed in the media, and I think it's probably a little bit uncalled for, kind of scapegoated a bit. Maybe it's because he's kind of got the mentality where Ten Hag knows if I call him out, he'll perform in the next game. Maybe, who knows? But yeah, I really like Garnacho, so I'm going to go Garnacho on that right hand side. Now onto the left hand side, it's going to be between Ramsey, who's been playing there on the left this season, or we've got Marcus Rashford. So for me, this is an easy one. I think you've got to take Jacob Ramsey. Jacob Ramsey, I think, is another one of those underrated players. One of those players that doesn't seem to get mentioned when we talk about the Villa. When we talk about the Villa, he's a guy who's been in and around the squad now for a couple of years, playing week in, week out, plays in the centre midfield, and he was that good. Emery was like, I have to get this guy into the team, so he moves him out onto the left, and he's still been really good. Going forward, going back defensively as well, I think he works really well with Luca Digne, because I spoke about Luca Digne's bombing on forward, and it kind of links up really nicely then between them two. So for me, it's got to be Ramsey. I think Rashford kind of, we can talk about the fact that a lot of people discuss what's happened to Rashford. He's fallen off and all of this kind of narrative. But it has been quite disappointing now for a while for Marcus Rashford. He's kind of not hit the heights that we were expecting him to. He had a little bit of a purple patch at one point last season, but since then, we've kind of not really seen a great player. And I want him to play well because we all know deep down there is a player there. But right now, he can't get into this team. And what I find really odd about Manchester United, that in any other team, if a player doesn't perform and it kind of gets spoken about loads in the media and everyone's talking about it, then players get dropped and then they get replaced and then they kind of work their way back into the team. But with Man United, because the squad is so weak, really, and especially in his position, he never gets dropped. So then he's just cut out then in the media just to get cut and hit down every single week. I want him to do well. And I think the way that Sancho kind of got treated and things hasn't really helped his case either, with the fact that Sancho's doing really well at Chelsea. So I do feel for Rashford, because really shouldn't be in the squad, and they should allow him to kind of go back to the drawing board, kind of grow as a player, and then work his way back into the team. So yeah, I do feel for Rashford. But that is my entire 11. So we've got Emi Martinez in goal, right back Ezri Konsa, centre backs of Pau Torres and Martinez, left back Dalot, midfield three of Kobe Mainoo, Yuri Tielemans and Morgan Rogers, and then a front three of Jacob Ramsey, Garnacho, and Ollie Watkins up top. Please do smash the like button, please do subscribe, and tell me your thoughts on my combined 11. But thank you for watching. I will see you tomorrow for another video. Thank you. Goodbye.